The scene started in Shinryu Academy, where a girl from the academy narrated a rumor that the academy was built over an old graveyard, and there were old graves all around the school grounds. In the girls' dormitory, we find 3 girls discussing all these rumors. The girl who was narrating the whole rumor also said that apparently a 2-year-old boy saw a ghost near the cemetery. While 2 of the girls who sat on the bed were discussing the rumor, the other girl who sat on the floor was frightened to hear those stories. Riku-rei, the warden of the girls' dormitory and also the heroine of our story, asked them to go to bed as the lights would be switched at 10 p.m. and asked them to stop their discussion about the rumor. We got a briefing about the girls' day-to-day schedule where they had to go to bed at 10 p.m. As everyone went to sleep and the lights were turned off, we found Riku-rei standing in a window and lamenting the fact that it was another peaceful day, because someone in some other world was fighting with demons and evil forces for days, so that other people in Shinryu Academy would live peacefully. Suddenly, she imagined the hero of our story and a cat waving her from downwards. As midnight struck on the clock, the moon suddenly turned red and a pyramidal structure called the mausoleum appeared out of the ground, which had a treasure inside it. It was attacked by a huge number of evil forces and demons with red eyes and black bodies who opened the grave to capture the mausoleum. As the thousands of demons with red eyes appeared near the mausoleum, a cat noticed it and jumped into a boy who was the hero of the story, Riku Suigin. Suigin saw the demons come towards him and shouted, "Riku Suigin!" He single-handedly protected the mausoleum's purity from the evil forces, and he had been doing so for ages. As thousands of demons ran towards Suigin, he started using his power and ran towards them with the cat on his shoulder. A flash of yellow light killed hundreds of demons, while thousands of arrows arrived towards him, and Suigin flew over the sky. In a vicious battle between Riku Suigin and the evil forces, Suigin easily overpowered the demons and started narrating the story. As the scene changes, we go back 1 year ago in the summer when Suigin was bullied by some boys in Shinryu Academy's swimming pool. As a lifeguard at the swimming pool, he was being asked about a girl in a pink dress, but he was unable to answer since he was playing a game on his computer. The boy got infuriated and threw his cat in the swimming. As his cat Wanchoi was thrown into the swimming pool by the bullies, Suigin, although he didn't know swimming, jumped into the water to save his pet cat. As he woke up, Wanchoi started jumping into Suigin and was happy to see him wake. Suigin found Rancho standing, and from him came to know he was rescued by Riku-rei, the sole daughter of Riku Yuki, vice president of Godgrave Tech Company. She was the smartest and most famous girl in school. As Suigin started cleaning the swimming pool, he suddenly remembered that inside the pool, Riku-rei in the water. The scene shifted to the present where the battle was going on between Suigin and thousands of demons. While Suigin was fighting with the demons, suddenly some huge-sized demons appeared in front of him. Suigin used a power named Thousand Graves, and with a flash of yellow light, thousands of grave signs came out of the ground, resulting in the killing of those demons. He was confident and determined that he would never lose to these demons, and he would save the world for her. He jumped off the tower with the flashbacks of his past. As red leaves fell from the tree, a small girl who was unconscious came into consciousness as she woke up and saw a small boy staring at her. The small boy introduced himself as Suigin and asked whether she was okay. It was the meeting of Suigin and Riku-rei in some parallel world. The scene shifts to the Shinryu Academy cemetery, which was adjacent to the academy, where a boy and a girl were conversing about how beautiful the place was and spending some of their private moments. But in the meantime, they were frightened away as they saw a shadow of Suigin and his cat Wanchoi. After Suigin, who was the security guard of the academy, frightened them away, he started playing his favorite game, Dungeon Century, where he was the most pro player of all. In the game, he was a mysterious lone warrior who didn't speak and who could defeat any monster with minimal-level weapons whose name was Gin. As he leveled up and was going to start the next dungeon, he suddenly heard a girl struggling to fight with the monster in the game. Though she tried to attack the monster but was unable to fight it, Suigin thought that it was taboo to use water attack on the kickbacker monster. Suigin readily entered the game to save the girl player by using ice and physical strikes on the monster. Later on, in the game, the girl introduced herself as Rei, and she was a beginner. While playing the game, suddenly the power was cut and Suigen got disappointed. He then climbed up the tower to fix the light and assured Wanchoi that to relax, he had to just connect the wires. While fixing the wires, suddenly a beautiful girl, Riku Rei, opened the window describing a strong boss character in the dungeon game and said that he defeated the monster as if it was nothing. Suigen heard her while a pillow was thrown at him, resulting in falling off from the tower. A girl from behind the window shouted at him, calling him a leecher and pervert, as she thought he was peeking in their window. The next day in the high school building, Suijin was cleaning the window and had a bandage on his face due to the accident from the previous day night. Suijin found Rei and one of her friends, Maki, sat on the bench and talked about the game that was made by Rei's father. As Suigen moved further to watch what the game was, he found it was the same game he was pro at, that was Dungeon Game. He realized that the girl he saved from the game the previous day was Rei. Riku Rei described to her friend Maki that she was obsessed with the game and she felt she belonged there rather than the reality. Suddenly, Rancho appeared in a window and made him realize that he had a love interest for Riku Rei, but also advised him that she was very famous among the boys of the academy, so suggested to him that there was no future for his love for Riku Rei. Suigen suffered from an inferiority complex. The next day in the boys' dormitory, as Suigen sat on his computer to play the dungeon game, he found a friend request from Riku Rei. For the next several months, they both used to play the game together, which was a dream for Suijin. Suijin didn't want anything in life other than spending time with her in the game. Rei wondered what Gwyn was outside the world of the game and wanted to meet him someday. The sad truth of Suigen's life was that he was a poor guy and lonely who had no family and no friends. Suigen used to do all kinds of part-time jobs to earn his livelihood. On the other hand, Riku Rei lived in a whole different world with a completely different social status. There was a huge difference between their social status, so he preferred to stay their connection till inside the game where he could spend time with her without any social differences. At night, while Suigen sat to play the game Dungeon Century, he observed it was showing an important announcement that the game would be discontinued. Suigen was shaken badly and felt dejected as the game was the only medium through which he could keep contact with Riku Rei. The next day, as the clock ticked, Suigen was even not able to walk properly and fell into the bushes while the students of the academy stared at him. Suigen was depressed, as he would not be able to discover any more adventures with Riku Rei, and the only communication with her would be disrupted. Riku Rei's father gave her a rectangular box covered in purple sheet and told her that if something happened to follow the instructions inside of it, he confronted her that the game Dungeon Century was a prototype and was over, and a new game was going to launch which would change the world. Riku Rei realized that his father was monitoring her and found out she found a perfect partner in the game. Suigen, fully depressed and hopeless, had thoughts about the game, and his journey with Riku Rei's ending makes him sad. While Suigen looked into the water depressed, Rancho commented on Suigen's condition and suggested expressing his love for her in real life. Rancho was a bit amazed to see this amount of one-sided love for the person whom he had not met in the real world. But Rancho was confident about the fact about Suigen that he would overcome his pain and move on. As Riku Rei's father surpassed Suigen in the car, he was thinking of announcing the new game with the president, and he had a meeting with President Ling at 4 o'clock. At night, as Riku Rei joined the game, Maki, her roommate, advised her to sleep, but she wanted to play the game and said Maki good night. Riku Rei started playing the game, and inside the game, Riku Rei waited for Suigen to come inside a bar. Suigen, after finishing his work, readily fixed his computer and started the game. As Suigen entered the game, Riku Rei held his hand and requested Suigen to enjoy all the adventures that the game had to offer and make more memories. Suigen realized that for Riku Rei it was just a mere game, and he was her game buddy, and she was not interested in him outside the game world. As both of them sat under a tree, Riku Rei talked about her ultimate goal in this game before it ended, which was to find a special variation of this song flower. It is known as the evening song flower. Riku Rei was desperate to find the flower before the game ended, and Suigen readily got up and promised to find that flower with her. Later on, hearing this, Riku Rei was overwhelmed with joy and hugged Suigen, which was the most awaited moment for Suigin. As she hugged her, they fell in the ground, giggling, and the tree splashed water on them. As the scene changed, we came to the real world at the GGTC Cooperate building. The God Grave Tech Company were announcing the new online game, Grave Buster. In the game Grave Buster, players would be grave robbers and get various treasures that are within each stage. They would help the player to have a system where their financial strength would be the ultimate strength. The more the players play, the more powerful they become. Every player who would register to play would receive a special console called Seabay, specifically designed for Grave Buster free of cost. The genius game designer Riku Yuki was given the credit for being able to place the announcement smoothly. The slogan for the Grave Buster game was, "The reality that surpasses reality." Whereas Suigin lay in his bed engrossed in the thoughts of Riku Rei and their journey in the game. The day had finally arrived when the game Dungeon Century would be discontinued. While washing the dishes, he only thought about the fact that his journey with Riku Rei would end that day at the stroke of midnight. As firecrackers busted in the sky inside the Dungeon Century game, Riku Rei was also unable to accept the fact that it was the last day she would be able to meet Suigin. As Riku Rei's father was watching the grand finale of Dungeon Century in the GGTC building, suddenly someone appeared on the screen and asked when he wanted to leave, but he replied that he wanted to see the full finale of the game. Meanwhile, Suigin rushed, as he was way past the time for the finale of the Dungeon Century game. While rushing on his bicycle, he fell on the ground, and all the bottles fell and broke, and Wancho started panicking. As Riku Rei waited for Suigin, he asked the barmaster some favor, and as she went out, she found the land full of golden flowers. Meanwhile, in the GGTC building, as the security guards were sleeping, there was an entry by an intruder. The woman came in front of Riku Rei's father and threatened him, pointing a gun to tell him how to open the tomb. He refused the grave robber to tell the way, and that woman shot the final gravekeeper, Riku Yuki. On the other hand, inside the game Dungeon Century, a new monster appeared and started collecting all the items from everyone, and to do so the monster eliminated everyone. However, Suigin ran hard to reach the academy so that he could start the game one last time. The monster destroyed the final night for the players of Dungeon Century. Meanwhile, that monster tried to destroy the town and attacked Riku Rei, and she fought bravely with the monster. On the other hand, Suigin was unable to come on time to his gaming console, as on the way he accidentally fell off his cycle, which took time to reach. When he logged inside the game, he found everything was destroyed by the monster, and the bar manager gave him the message that Rei told him that as he was late, she went to find the flower herself, and after he came, he should join her. Suigin ran towards the field to find Riku Rei, and he found her lying on the field holding the last songflower in her hand. Suigin picked her up on his lap, and she was disappointed as she was unable to find the evening songflower, but she thanked Suigin by giving the last songflower and greeted him farewell. This made Suigin felt very emotional and helpless. He started crying. Luckily, the flower she was holding turned into the last evening songflower with a bright blue light. But exactly when they were rejoicing in the happiness of finding it, that monster grabbed Riku Rei and killed her in the game. Suigin was helpless to do anything, although he was holding the flower given by Riku Rei. At that very moment, the game was over as the clock ticked, and Dungeon Century was discontinued forever. The next day morning, Suigin returned to his house with fog all over the surroundings. With a heavy heart, he crossed Riku Rei, and she greeted him and took Wancho in her arms. She acknowledged Suigin as the same guy who saved her many times in the game as well, and she thanked him again. But Suigin was very much disappointed as he couldn't save her at the most crucial point. But Riku Rei offered him to play the new game Grave Busters together with her and protect her as he would do. Suigin was overwhelmed with joy as the friendship had come from the virtual world to the real world. It was the most joyful moment for him. Below the GGTC building, police were investigating the murder of Mr. Riku Yuki, father of Riku Rei. Suigin was in great shock after hearing this unfortunate news from Rancho back in the class. Suigin rushed to the academy to meet with Riku Rei and console her, but she had already left to make the arrangements for the funeral. In the funeral venue of Riku Yuki, father of Riku Rei, she sat holding her father's photograph on her hand. She was in massive shock. Various kinds of rumors had already been aired, like her father was in great debt, and all his life he worked hard to make games. It was a great shock for the whole city. Everyone offered their deep condolences by offering speeches, while the culprit of his murder was also standing at the side of the funeral function. Every one of the God-Grave Tech Company would work together for her father and pledge to give justice to the culprit. Suddenly, out of everything, Suigen got a vision of Riku Yuki, and he was astonished by his vision and realized that he knew his father from beforehand. The next day, Riku Rei invited Suigen and offered him a special box covered with purple color cloth, which Riku Rei's father left for him. Suigen was surprised to see that. There was a letter with it from Riku Yuki. Riku Yuki left a seabay on the special console he made to play the new game, Grave Buster, for Suigen, which opened with his fingerprint and his eye scan. Suigen was confused about the fact that why her father left this console for him. Riku Rei disclosed a big secret that she was not his biological daughter. Suigen was in a great shock to hear this. As soon as Suigen touched the console, the device checked the true identity of Suigen and successfully opened up. Meanwhile, Riku Rei had to leave Suigen and go to attend to some visitors. The visitors came in a black color car, and the two guys were standing outside. Inside the house, Suigen sat and waited for the console to open, and as soon as the console opened, it displayed an enormous amount of wealth of 10 billion registered in the name of Suigen. Suigen was astonished to see that and thought it to be a technical issue or a joke. Later on, there was a default voice message in it, which was left by Mr. Riku Yuki, who said that he was the person who raised Riku Rei and was the grandfather of Suigen. Suigen was in a great shock. In the headquarters of GGTC, the most trustworthy employee of the company was behind the murder of Riku Yuki, and he was talking to that unknown imposter who murdered Mr. Riku Yuki. We find that those people have been working for a dark organization named Precious, and the whole organization worked for a person named Dark Tiger. Later on, in the voice message, Riku Yuki left this enormous wealth so that Suigen and Riku Rei could live happily ever after. It also said more that Riku Rei's original parents were killed by the enemies, so he adopted Riku Rei as her daughter. Her parents and Mr. Riku Yuki were comrades and worked for the same purpose. The voice message asked Suigen to protect Riku Rei from the enemies and use this inheritance. Meanwhile, those visitors wanted to kidnap Riku Rei and asked her to clear all the debts left by Mr. Riku Yuki. Suigen jumped in to save her, and the curtains fell for this episode. Suigen ran towards the goons to fight with them, but was unable to fight them back. He was been beaten by the goons badly, and Riku Rei pledged to them to stop hurting him, and she will go wherever they take her. Suigen promised to pay their debt of 5 million and went back to the console. Unfortunately, was disheartened to hear the fact that the game currency would not be able to convert into real money, and as a result, those goons took her away. But while leaving, she thanked Suigen for his efforts to save her. Suigen remembers all the memories with her and cries. A car was chased, and Suigen chased the cars in which Riku Rei was kidnapped, but was unable to rescue her as the goons played tricks with the car by slowing it down. Suigen unfortunately met with a deadly accident. After that, inside the car, an unknown person appears out of nowhere named Silicon Totems. Suigen was still chasing that car and saw the car was flipped and the goons dead, and also witnessed Silicon Totems, who crushed those goons and took over Riku Rei. The guy named Silicon delivered a message to Suigen saying that Temujin-sama would be waiting for him in the Grave Buster, and after delivering that message, he disappeared along with Riku Rei. At night, Suigen pondered upon the fact of what he should do, and how could he save Riku Rei. He remembered all the things that happened that day, and where could the guy possibly take Riku Rei? Suddenly, a flash of green light appeared from the console, and a new female character from the console appeared in front of Suigen named Twin Star. She claimed that she was summoned by Riku Suigen, which was a complete shock for Suigen, and suddenly that female character teleports him inside the world of Grave Buster Stage 34. He lands in a nomad's land and sees that female character transformed into two little star-like creatures. A group of grave busters were up for robbing in different locations but on the same stage. Meanwhile, where Suigen was digesting all these weird things happening to him slowly, a new monster appeared in front of him. As the story started, it gave a description of the world Suigen went into. It was created many years ago with a powerful goddess, and she gave her own life to create many other lives. When the goddess got exhausted, she began her eternal slumber in an imperial tomb, and her death left behind a strong power. The goddess's name was Bango, and it was a myth of creation that had been told since ancient times. As the pyramid-like monster yelled, those star-like creatures ran away as twin stars inside the console and revealed they were just a part of the game and were only responsible for showing the path as a guide and cheering Suigen. Suigen went on a combat with that weird pyramidal monster. The monster told him he would test him whether he was worthy of becoming a tomb guardian or not. That monster confronted Suigen if he was eligible to become the tomb guardian and ward off any intruders along with the monster and protect the stage from them. At first, Suigen was least interested in becoming a tomb guardian later on and walked past the monster, but he changed his mind when he came to know that he had to pass the test to save Riku Rei. Suddenly, a blue light flashed and destroyed the ground in front of them. A gang of grave robbers who were watching Suigen and the monster from a telescope and screen attacked that pyramid monster, but they missed the shot. As they missed the shot, the girl named Roger, who was watching the screen, called Ayu, who was attacking, told him that they would hit the monster the next time. While they were adjusting the angle from the next round of firing, Ayu told Roger that it would take 5 minutes, and she instructed Farin-chan to create a diversion until it finished charging. Farin-chan used her electric shoes to reach the place where the monster and Suigen were talking. Until then, Roger would play the cards. The pyramid monster readily understood that the tomb raiders were attacking, and Suigen should help him to defeat them, and that would be his test to become tomb guardian. The pyramid monster flashed a green light which surprised Suigen, and that pyramid monster incarnated a girl named Shosita. She was very beautiful and had a sweet voice, and to Suigen's, Shosita already knew Suigen. She acted as if she knew Suigen from a long time ago. She hugged her and greeted her with a kiss, which led to breaking the seal of his memories. After that, Suigen had a flashback about his grandfather, who once gifted him the red scarf and was holding his hands. He realized he was still wearing the scarf. Suigen felt emotional about the fact that he was no more. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from the pyramidal creature, and from within the top of the pyramid appeared Suigen's dead grandfather, Riku Yuki, who was the actual tomb guardian. The scene changed, and Riku Rei was in a prison cell where she was dreaming about the day. She saved Suigen from the swimming pool. Suddenly, she woke up and she found her in a prison where a small girl was waiting for her to wake. She asked her to wear a dress given by her and get ready for her purification while the place remained unknown. Roger splashed all the cards in the air, which changed into little monsters named centipedes, and instructed them to take care of the guardians. Inside the game, where the grave busters were continuously charging on the pyramidal creature, or rather the tomb guardian, with their powers named Heart Centipede, which summoned many centipedes. Riku Yuki cleared his true identity as being Suigen's father. Finally, Splash of Yellow Light declared that the tomb raiders were attacking them. As Farin-chan went to use her power sword, she found the battery low. She slowed down but found the Heart Centipede was behind her, and she took their help to attack the pyramid. As Farin-chan used her power and went to go on a battle with them, Riku Yuki told Suigen that he was the data that he saved when he logged in just before he died. The three of them, Suigen, Riku Yuki, and Shosita, ran towards the pyramid creature to get into it to save their lives from the raiders. Suigen's grandfather took him inside the pyramidal creature, which was a robot, and showed him the main cockpit of the Guardian specifically made for the hidden level, which was named Gurdian Giant Yuki 34, as Farin-chan used her power to break the tomb into 2 pieces. Suddenly, a big giant robot appeared and started attacking the robbers. Inside the cross-fortress purification spring, Riku Rei was being bathed by 2 mermaids forcefully. A vigorous fight between the Tomb Raider and Tomb Guardian took place for over 1,000 years over the goddess's tomb, and still Suigin, Shoshita, and his grandfather were struggling in the fight against the Tomb Raider they ran over the goddess's tomb, but both sides end up having the same power. A Tomb Guardian protected the tomb as well as the power that lay inside the tomb. The Tomb Raiders fired with a splash of blue light that resulted in breaking the robot's left leg. Shoshita panicked while Suigin operated the system and found a gun. To counter the Tomb Raiders who destroyed the tomb to take the power of gods as their own, they protected the tombs and the power that lay within them, as well as the world. And it was the duty of the Tomb Guardians. Meanwhile, Suigin and Shoshita launched a powerful red light shot at the Tomb Raider, but were unable to take them down as the Tomb Raiders reflected the shot towards Suigin's robot with the help of a mirror diamond card. As Suigin struggled to fight the Tomb Raiders, meanwhile, Roger took out a club card and then she hypnotized Shoshita. Shoshita was able to see the green club card. Roger made her fire feudal blows, which reduced their shooting energy level. Meanwhile, the centipedes had infiltrated the giant robot. Suigin was confused about what to do. Roger called Farin-chan and told her that AU was going to launch a big shot and she should take cover. The twin stars were protecting the tomb from centipedes and stopped them from entering the area where all of them were present. Suddenly, the data of his grandfather started disappearing, and he took his gramps in his arms and told Suigin to protect the Bango's tome, which would help in rescuing Riku-Rei, and also claimed the fact that Suigin was the last Tome Guardian. Suigin broke into tears. Thus, Suigin got charged up and rushed towards the Tomb Raider above one of the centipede. As Farin-chan was retreating, she suddenly found someone above the centipede moving towards the Tomb Raiders. They were confused as they thought Suigin's grandfather was the last Tomb Guardian. He alone crushed all three of them by the charge of red light and successfully defended the tomb. He was acknowledged as the last Tomb Guardian. Shoshita greeted him farewell and wished him all the best for the next stages and battles as her role was ending at this stage. While Suigin moved to the next stage, where he met with an unknown girl who was mocking Suigin and suddenly fired a shot at Suigin. With this, the curtain fell. A team of gold hunters in stage 35 were the golden mines, where the team included those 3 Tomb Raiders and a new boy with them. The scene shifted to Suigin, where he dreamt of the last shot by an unknown woman, and he found himself lying on his bed in real life out of the game world. He found that his wound caused by the shot from the previous night was healing on its own. Suddenly, his Seibei rang, and he got a phone call from Temujin from the headquarters of Totem's hideout. He said would be waiting for Suigin in the Gravebuster and cut the call. On his console, he received a video of Riku-Rei lying on a bed unconscious. The whole city was very excited about the new game, and everyone was on their phones either watching or playing the game. In the world of Gravebusters, they were waiting for the Tomb Guardians. The new guy who joined the Gold Hunters was planning to rob a big gold mine, as they knew in the world of Gravebusters money was everything, and if they had money, then they would be acknowledged by the organization named Precious, who were behind the killing of Riku Yuki. The scene changes to Suigin, who was reading the user manual of Grave Buster's game to know the rules and how to play the game inside the Shinryu Academy library. He learned that all the new members of the Grave Buster game needed to do a registration first, and if they got approved, then the players would be allowed to enter. While reading the rules, he met with Ransho, and he introduced Suigin to a girl who was very much interested in games. Inside the game, 3 rookies, 2 boys, and a girl played the game and then robbed gold from other players. But those cunning Tomb Raiders asked them for help to rob gold by charming them with their beauty. In the real world, Suigin came to know about the fact that the person named Dark Tiger was the owner of the game, Grave Buster, who was also the head of an organization known as Precious. Precious had an enormous amount of wealth and used to control the game worldwide while stealing other players' money and items to gain more power. But some forces are fighting against Precious, among which one of them was Temujin of the Totems. Temujin was the leader of the group and was willing to do anything. He was the terrifying man who devoured everything. All this information was given to Suigin by the new girl Rancho introduced him to. Suigin was very tense about Riku Rei. Riku Rei was seen in the totem's Hadiut, and she sat in the bed. Suddenly a door opened and Temujin came to meet her and said she would get anything she wanted and asked her to make herself comfortable with the place like home. She asked to let her go home, but as usual, Temujin refused. Those three rookies got tricked by the Tomb Raiders, and they were trapped inside a golden prison-like structure. The fourth member who captured them was called Golvin or Vozaburo, also named as Wild Wolf. Suigin came to Riku Rei's room in the Shinryu Academy and talked to a roommate. While watching her computer, he found his picture from the Dungeon Century game, as Gwyn-san was pasted on top of her computer. He promised her roommate that she didn't need to worry about Riku Rei, and he would bring her back at any cost. Inside the game, those four Tomb Raiders enjoyed their victory after looting those three rookies with a feast in the Gravebuster lobby stage on the public saloon Solo Arbor. They found a guy lamenting the fact that his team all money was stolen by a single woman. Temujin of Totems was found asking his assistant Retret for something, and brought a red phone to him. The guy who took Riku Rei and the girl who was in the prison cell with Riku Rei, named Koshiriko, was found taken to Temujin, and he told Retret that though Riku Yuuki died, Riku Rei was an important worth. Those four Tomb Raiders who were mugging other players talked with the guy who was lamenting and found out that they were mugged by a woman, single-handedly. While the Wild Wolf was mugging the other three players, he told an important rule of the game that if the player did not have money, they would be forcibly logged out of the game and their account would be deleted. After mugging one of the players, his wealth went up to 50 million. Meanwhile, suddenly, a woman destroyed their prison made of gold, freeing those players. The woman who shot Suigin appeared and started mocking them. They indulge in a fight with the woman and get caught in her trap of a red prison. The Wild Wolf tried to trick her his sword, but was not able to take her wealth, as it would only work upon the people who would have lower wealth than its owners, and that woman was one of the 5 players who had more than 100 million of wealth. Later on, they got crushed by her with a gold block. Again on that night, Suigin went into the game to save Riku Rei. As she freed the other 3 Tomb Raiders, that mysterious woman revealed her name as the Collector, who solely lives to kill the Tomb Raiders. The Wild Wolf got eliminated. Dark Tiger. Sama was informed about that mysterious woman named Collector who defies the team of Precious. 1 year ago, somewhere in the world on a rainy day, 2 kids sat under the rooftop. The boy was named Takeshi, and the girl was named Mikan. The boy aspired to be a wealthy gamer and leave his town and the city for a better place, which is like heaven, and vows to take the girl along with him. In the Totem's hideout, where Riku Rei was welcomed and was presented with a red console and also as a member of the Totems, they offered her a Seabay to play Gravebuster. Inside, a game stage 10 named Twin Battlegate was presented, where Takeshi was not allowed to enter the battle, as he didn't have enough money to pay the entry fee of 10 million. Takeshi climbed high up the walls of the battle stadium, and he met up with Suigin, who flew high due to his guide. Suigin offered Takeshi to fly with him and watch the game. Suigin was not interested in the martial arts game, he only wanted to see the matchmaker Lao Long. In the standout, they found Lao Long, and he was in charge of the beginners' courses. Later on, the finalist names were declared. One was the self-proclaimed best ice user, the fighter of the stormy seas Mammoth Viking, and his opponent was the best ice user, the frost magician EU, who was one of the members of the Tomb Raider team. The prize pool was a whooping 10 million yen real money, and the supplementary prize was an ice snow leopard. The battle began, and as Mammoth Viking used his power, EU froze his opponent, Mammoth Viking, by several frosting with ice. Suddenly, Takeshi interfered in the battlefield and used his book, which shined bright suddenly and defeated Ieu. Suigen fell into Ieu and he was eliminated from the game. According to the rule, if an intruder happens to defeat one of the participants, they will have the right to participate in the battle instead. So Riku Suigen and Takeshi were the new challenging teams. Takeshi apologized to Suigen for bringing him into all this, and Takeshi shared a flashback of his life and why he was so determined to win this tournament and the money. In the flashback, he was always used to spending time with Mikan, who always used to defend him with Paladin's memoirs. Mikan was suffering from a deadly illness, and money was needed for her treatment so that he could take her out of the town and proceed with her treatment. On the battlefield, there was a rule that regardless of any circumstances, intruders would have their abilities halved, and his book was torn into half. Mammoth Viking burnt out the memories which were used by Takeshi as a tool to defeat him, and the battle continued. On the battlefield, Takeshi was fighting with his opponent Mammoth Viking, and he was attacking him with the hammer, which was suddenly stopped by Suigen. As Suigen slowed him, Takeshi fell, and the hammer fell into his head, and it lighted into the book. Suigen showed him to win the tournament he was losing all his precious memories, not only from Mikan's heart, but also from his heart and also from the book. The twin star was distracting Mammoth Viking so that he did not attack them. Takeshi broke down in tears and lamented that he had no choice and it was the only way to treat Mikan. Suigen handed Takeshi his book and decided to battle on behalf of Takeshi. And there was an announcement that the intruder team decided to switch out. ID. Riku Suigen was displayed on the screen and was displayed as an armature. Suigen tried to miss his traps but was finally trapped by the Mammoth Viking in the ice frost. Suigen struggled but couldn't move. As soon as he was going to get eliminated by Mammoth Viking, he was saved by the twin star as she came in front and stopped Viking's attack with a green flash of light. There was no data registered of the twin start. Suigen thanked her and she told her he was going to owe him big for that fight. Twin stars, and again get transformed into their true form as star-like creatures. Mammoth Viking started squishing them and Takeshi got furious. Takeshi pledged to himself that he would not run away and would not hide away and protect the twin stars. As a boy, it was his responsibility to protect the girl. He had a flashback of his time with Mikana and broke into tears. As Mammoth Viking started beating the little boy, there was an announcement that Viking was crushing the little boy into pulp. As Twin Star flew in the sky, a flash of green light appeared all over the area. The Twin Star transformed herself into a twin-headed dragon, a S-class grave beast, also known as twin-headed jade dragon. As the dragon used its all-power to freeze Mammoth Viking, everyone was shocked as well as frightened. It froze the Mammoth Viking into green ice and defeated the Mammoth Viking. On one go, Suigen offered all the prize pool to Takeshi as well as the snow leopard. As the twin star used all her power, she appeared in the console and asked Suigen whether he was sure about giving all the money, and also told him it was real money. Later, he regrets the fact that they were real money, and he could have kept some of it with him. But he was helpless, and the commentary people talked about whether he was among the collectors, but realized that lady had conquered all the stage on her own. Suigen was in a place for the beginner training where he met two new boys. Suigen kept asking them whether it was a place for beginner training or not. One of them, with a headphone in his head, readily replied that Riku Suigen was a super poor student who only worked and mocked Suigen. Later, he introduced himself as one of his classmates, Sha, who was the student union president. From a ray of light, a woman appeared in front of them and introduced everyone like trainee ID. Titan, Idaho, Sha, and ID, Riku Suigen. She was their instructor and in charge of their beginner's course and introduced herself as Rin. She took them to the real battlefield that was already robbed by grave robbers and defeated the boss. They looted everything present. They saw there were monsters named tunnel apes, and they were in huge numbers with black bodies and red eyes. Despite the way they looked, they were quite fast and troublesome as told by Rin. As they were determined to defeat those monsters, a group of monsters already attacked them from behind. As Rin was attacked, she used her sword to protect, Rin told the three boys that every player who came to Gravebusters was given a unique item, which was called the Buster item, which was the player's weapon. Sha got Storm Eye, Titan got the Metal Fist, and Suigen had his red scarf as the weapon. The fight continued, and Rin and Titan fought against the monsters while Sha ran hard and Suigen used his physical attack. Their physical attacks were of no use as Tunnel Ape's armors were very deep, so they didn't deal any damage. To kill them, Rin suggested killing the Elder Tunnel, which had 3 eyes, and was their elder, the Grand Tunnel Ape. Titan, with his massive iron fist, directly attacked the Elder and pulled it down. With his iron fist, he blew a blue light which eliminated the Grand Tunnel Ape. Everyone was amazed to see his enormous power and skill, and was showered with golden coins. The rest of the monsters were eliminated by Rin as she cut them off with her sword. Sha was amazed by Rin because of her beauty and as an idol of every millennium. It resulted in the level up of the beginner's course. In the Shinryu Academy, as the teacher called out Sha's name, everyone noticed him as absent. As they leveled up, Suigen thought it was the end of their beginner's course, but Rin revealed that to pass the beginner's course, they had to defeat her. Rin throws the weapon on 3 of them, and they avoid it just closely. Rin said she was able to understand the extent of their abilities just from their reactions and had the power to see others' Buster items. Later, Sha was constantly shouting and underestimating Rin, which made Rin furious, and she told him to remove the kunai out of his head. As Rin was viewing Suigen's Buster item, she realized he had some unique powers. As she asked him to give him his Buster item, Titan attacked Rin and smirked that he didn't like to waste time. After watching Titan's moves, he remembered that he was the guy who won the world's 3 biggest virtual fighting game tournaments and held the titles for 3 years. He was the undefeated Crusher Titan, and all his information is deleted from the internet. There was a flashback memory of Titan winning the trophy, and his father, as a congratulatory gift, gifted him a gaming console named Gravebuster. Though Titan was furious with his father, but had to obey him. Rin was a tough competitor. Titan could not defeat her easily. Titan asked for Suigen and Sha's help and told them they had to defeat her to go to the next level. Rin advised Titan not to underestimate her, as she could defeat all 10 like them while napping. Sha was in love with Rin and called her Princess Rinko, and to profess his love he had to defeat her. The special ability of Storm Eye is that Sha could become one with the wind. Suigen activated his Raven Scarf and used item number 1, First Blood, engage. Suigen was shocked by where he learned to use his ability. As the fight between Rin and Titan continued, Rin was smashed in the floor by Titan, and Rin realized that Titan was very powerful, and she wouldn't let her win the beginner's course. Sha attacked Rin using his special ability, but was easily defeated by her with a single blow. While being eliminated, Sha got emotional and told Suigen that maybe he was not made for Gravebuster, as he was not powerful like Titan. Suigen realized that Rin was invincible, and they could not defeat her. The scene changed to the real world, where Sha's mother told him that she would leave his dinner and cold medicine by his door. Sha opened the door and was very happy because in the final he was able to make a friend called Suigen in the game. Inside the game, Titan was unable to accept the fact that Rin was invincible. He was overconfident, and he couldn't accept the fact that Rin was invincible, as he considered himself to be invincible and undefeated. So Titan continued to fight. But Suigen revealed a secret that Rin was a clone, and the main player behind her was Decoy Mirage, who could copy other players' appearance and skills. She was fooling them with her familiar weapon, a clone. As Suigen found the real Rin, he defeated her, and the Mirage in front of Titan decayed. Titan and Suigen got an ally card for passing the beginner's stage, and they were on the same team, but Titan directly attacked Mirage as he had always crushed his opponents. Suigen and Mirage ran away from Titan as he was determined to eliminate both Suigen and Mirage. Titan said he was meant to defeat everything in that world. The Mirage revealed her real name as Farron. Later on, Suigen offered Farron to join his team if he could defeat Titan. Farron accepted the deal, and meanwhile, Titan ambushed them. Suigen and Farron teamed up against Titan. As Titan went on a battle with Suigen and Farhin, He attacked with all his power, and Suigen readily used the first blood spell in which he could take technique from the first person to die in the stage and copy it. Suigen used Sha's power, the Man of Wind, while Titan mocked about using a loser's technique. Suigen became the wind and attacked Titan, while Titan repelled it back. As they both used their powers, shouting each other's names, Titan attacked Suigen's illusion and made a hole in his chest. Suigen appeared in front of Titan, standing and explaining to him that he fought with Suigen's illusion. Blood was shedding from one of Titan's legs as he was attacked by Suigen using a storm eye. Titan was furious at Suigen, and as he moved to attack him, he was led back by the injury in his leg. Suigen advised him to surrender, and if he would surrender, he wouldn't hurt Titan anymore. Titan conversed with Suigen about the story from his past life, where he was indulged in a fight in a tournament, where two of the audience whispered that he won tournaments because of his father's power and wealth. Titan's father had to sign agreements so that the press wouldn't say a word against him. Titan went into an argument with his father and mocked that there was nothing in the world that couldn't be solved with money. Titan went back from his flashbacks and said to Suigen that as the game was all about money, he won't surrender and use his money to fight. Titan changed his metal fist into the blade of Taibutan, which was the ultimate form of Buster item. The scene changed to the GGTC building where the members of the Precious conversed among themselves. Over 10 million players had started playing the game with various in-game purchases and high-leveled equipment, and it was growing even more than they imagined. At various stages, the bosses were being defeated, and fields were being taken over by the players. It was the final stage where they got past 0 and the members of Precious took a leave and disappeared. The Battle of Grave Busters had raged for 1,000 years, and Precious had been the predominant force among the grave robbers, and their leader was a mysterious force named Dark Tiger, who was one of the 5 billion players. The player Dark Tiger also had an upper echelon of 16 members, and their assets were over 2 billion. The members of the Precious appeared in front of Dark Tiger and told him that they were ready to conquer 0 and that they would follow Dark Tiger's every command. The Dark Tiger asked about the preparations for the festival on Stage 18 the next day. One of them replied that he had emailed the transfer rings to all the players. They would act as a repellent and defeat any of the weaker players. He had disposed of all of the Tomb Guardians, and if the number on the scale moved from 0 to 1, then there would be a new Tomb Guardian who have appeared. The Dark Tiger instructed that no matter who the Tomb Guardian was, to kill that person. In the game, Titan used all his money and wanted to prove to his father that he was chosen, and he was ruthless. He moved forward to kill Suigen and Farin, but Suigen readily covered Farin and told her they were a team. As Titan moved forward, Suigen covered him and Farin in a golden shield and destroyed the blade of Taibutan. Titan was astonished and surprised that from where did the part-timer get so much money? As the car crashed with the shield, it caused an explosion. As the explosion caused, Suigen was on top of Farin, and they had to log off, but he couldn't reach the sea bay. Farin got her sea bay, and Suigen asked her a question that whether she could analyze the opponent's Buster item. As Farin agrees, Suigen wanted her to be in his team, and he added his ID in her address book. Suddenly, a girl with a carriage came from inside the ground, and Farin felt intense pressure that came from inside. It was the Collector. The Collector mocked him and said that she thought she would find him in the beginner's area flirting with a girl. Farin sensed something dangerous as she was a player with divine tomb weapons and would have a flame aura around them. As per the rules, players have 1 divine tomb weapon with them, but she had 10, and she heard that the only person to have that ability was one of the billion players, the Collector. The Collector shot Farin in her eye, which led her to fall to the ground. Suigen panicked and asked her what did she, and in reply, he got that she shot her a plashy bullet and she would be unconscious for 2 minutes. The Collector wanted some alone time with Suigen and shot him with a sticky creature on his face and told him it was his present. The creature went inside Suigen's mouth, and the Collector described it as a sausage dragon, a grave beast that enters players' bodies, and was a key to saving Riku-Rei. Suigen asked whether she knew about where Riku-Rei was, and she told him that Riku-Rei was in the hands of the totem's leader Temujin, and if he wanted to save her not to believe in the Temujin, he would meet. When he would go to the headquarters of totems, that creature would tell him how to save Riku-Rei, and it was their secret. She also told him not to share, as even the walls had ears pointing at one of the members of totems, and left. While leaving, she killed the person who was listening to them. Farin woke up and asked Suigin what was she up to, but he pointed towards the person who was hearing the conversation between Suigin and the collector. As they arrived, Farin readily used her ability while the creature on the person's shoulder told her that they were not supposed to spot him. Their boss told them to monitor secretly and they had to kill them, but the square owl-like creature shouted as they were only asked to monitor. From Farin's ability, she identified that he didn't have a divine power, and his power lay on Wild Wolf, and he might be stronger than the Wild Wolf. She understood he was one of the totems. As Suigin ran towards them and attacked, they disappeared, and the battle began between them. As the person tried to attack Suigin, Farin jumped and saved him, and advised him to run as he was one of the upper echelon of the totems. His attacks were so fast that they couldn't resist them. Suddenly, several 32 appeared in their hands. With another strike, his hand's number changed to 33, and he was automatically logged off the game. Farin was also struck by him, which also led her in logging off. Suigin got a call and asked whether it was Farin, but he got a call from a member of totems, and if he wanted to save Riku-Rei, he had to follow him. In the real world, Suigin received a call from an unknown person who kidnapped Riku-Rei. He told him that to save Riku-Rei, he had to be present in a certain festival that would be held on stage 18 of Gravebuster, and it was a festival for those who had cleared all the stages in the game Gravebuster. It was also for preparing for conquering stage 0, and to conquer that he had to be present in stage 18 and find a player named Nishikaze. Suigin shouted at the person that how would he know her if he didn't even see her, and dropped the call. He left Suigin with more questions, and as he saw his computer, he remembered all the memories of the Dungeon Century game where he was a mysterious lone wolf who didn't speak and defeated enemies with the lowest grade equipment. He doubted himself as he thought that he was a hero in Dungeon Century, but was useless in the game Gradebusters. Suddenly, Wanchoi jumped onto him and slept on his chest. As morning struck, Wanchoi was sitting in the window and asked Suigin to come over there. Suigin saw many students of the academy surrounded a girl, and as the girl turned around, he found that it was Farin. Farin shouted at Suigin to help and save her. Everyone started throwing stones at him. In the Shinryu Academy students' cafeteria, Suigin sat with Farin while Farin was on her phone, and he thought in his mind whether she was going to live in his dorm or not. As Farin called him, she felt that he was not interested to see her, and she would leave. He said that he was glad to see her there, but in his mind, he thought he was a different person in the game, and he was a different person in real life who didn't even get noticed, and his existence was empty. As they were sitting in the cafeteria for 1 hour, the waiter handed them over the menu card and told them to order because many students were waiting outside. He took the menu card and asked Farin what did she wanted to eat. She ordered an avocado salad, minestrone, escargot, fried chicken wings, teriyaki steak, squid tempura, chilled ham pizza, cream pasta, special tiramisu, cheesecake, and ice cream. Suigin went on a thought about who would pay for the bill, and the waiter handed over to him the bill to pay. Some guys came to Suigin and called him trash as he went to an expensive restaurant, and also mocked them about Riku-Rei. Farin interrupted and said to the guys that his worth was about 100 million in the game Gravebuster, and he was her leader. The guys mocked him and suggested that he should pay the bill in front of Farin using Shinryu coins. He was surprised to know the restaurant took Shinryu coins as well as other forms of e-money, and he had to just scan his Seibei. As the waiter scanned his Seibei and received the money, the guys went into shock, and the waiter said that there were so many digits in his PDT account that she couldn't even count. Farin smirked at the guys who poked Suigin and told them he was one in a billion players. Suigin took Farin to his dorm where the boys shouted at Suigin for being a two-timer, and he replied that he was surely going to save Riku-Rei. Farin asked Suigin whether Riku-Rei was her girlfriend or not, and Suigin replied that she was not his girlfriend. To his reply, Farron asked what he meant by saving Riku-Rei, to which he replied that she was somewhere in the Grave Buster, and he would find her back. They logged back to Grave Buster with Farron on his team. As they logged into the game, Suigen found himself among many people, and suddenly Farron held his hand and dragged him to the festival as it was going to start. Farron said that the festival was to conquer Stage 0, and the conquest of Stage 0 was a huge event, and also there was no level limit for the players. The top players as well as the newbies were present in the festival to try out their luck. Also, several players just wanted to see what the mythical Stage 0 looked like. Suigen remembered the conversation with the unknown person who kidnapped Riku-Rei. He realized there also would be totems in the festival, to which Farron replied that totems were dangerous. Suigen told Farron that he didn't know what relation he had with totems, but Riku-Rei was captured by them, and they gave information about the game to him. Farron suggested getting information about the totems, and Suigen remembered that he could ask the Twin Star, who was his guide. As he opened his sea bay to connect with the Twin Star, he found her because she lost all energy from the fight with Viking in the tournament. Farron got anxious and thought of him as a and also slapped him. When they came to a restaurant, Farron was found to be a big eater and ate fast, and said that she lost a lot of HP due to Suigen's insensitivity. The delicious food came in front of them, and Suigen started to eat the ramen as fast as he could as he was starving. As Suigen was eating, he found people around him talking about the new billion player who had arrived and had been attacking Precious and totems. The people noticed someone, and as they moved towards him, Suigen thought in mind he didn't like to be the center of attention, and thought people moved towards him. As he was going to say Farron that he was one of the new billion players, he realized they were not coming after him and went outside. Farron and Suigen also went outside to see what was happening when they saw flying penguins who dropped rings as gifts. The people around started saying that they were transferring rings to go to Stage 18, and that's where the last quest was to go to Stage 0, and the numbers are limited on a first-come, first-serve basis. Suigen wondered what the Godgrave Company wanted to do, and thought that if they were transferring that amount of people, it was probably not a festival. They also used the transfer rings, and the Precious leader smirked that everything was going according to Dark Tiger Sama's plan. As Suigen and Farron appeared in Stage 18, Suigen felt weird, and more importantly was confused about how would he find Nishikaze. Everyone was digging the ground while Tomb Beast Guards arrived. As the battle was taking place, they found the portal to Stage 0. Suigen asked Farron who was guarding the portal, and Farron realized it was the Precious leader Dark Tiger. The Precious member charged bright blue light using his sword and activated the Steel Stallion Saber Centurion Buster. They defeated all the monsters in one go using the power. The Dark Tiger told Bushido, who defeated all the monsters, that it was time to awaken their boss. A splash of red water, which was blood, flowed all over the ground, and the boss of Stage 18, Aslan, appeared. Nishikaze sat at the top of a tomb with one of the members of Totems, and he suggested waiting while the players struggled to fight the boss of Stage 18, Aslan. Nishikaze used a magic mirror to find where the last guardian of the tomb was, while suddenly Nishikaze appeared out of the mirror in front of Suigen and Farron, which astonished him, and the curtain fell. In the game, Suigen was attacked by Nishikaze, who had 18 written in one of her eyes, which grounded him and said that her boss told her not to arrive in front of him, but she didn't care. She manifested an evil mirror, which showed Riku-Rei sitting on the bed. Suigen ran towards the mirror and told her not to worry, and that he would find and rescue her, though she was not able to hear anything. While on the other side of the mirror, Riku-Rei was thinking about Maki-chan, her roommate, as she suddenly disappeared, and the school that she was behind in her studies and also in the middle of sorting his father's belongings. Suddenly, as Riku-Rei turned from the mirror, she heard Suigen's sound, and at that very moment Nishikaze turned down the mirror and mocked him that she had heard that he was a good player but didn't believe it. As Suigen tried to attack Nishikaze, by one of her strokes, Suigen was set back. Suigen identified Nishikaze, and she said that she attacked him just to test the strength of his divine tomb item. Aslan, the boss of Stage 18, used his summoning attack to eliminate all the players just in one go, and everyone was sucked by the Mosquito Legion. Any player who's pierced by the Mosquito Legion would turn into a drop of blood, and that blood would merge with Aslan and become bone. They were all sucked by Aslan. Azal saw a red wave from the tomb. Nishikaze told Suigen that she had a message from his boss that after the confirmation of the buster item he should head to Stage 0. Suigen said that he heard that it would open in 5 days, to which he replied that the rumor was a lie, and that if he had a key, he would be able to go to Stage 0. Suddenly, Aslan went to the top of the tomb and found Riku Suigen. He wanted Suigen's blood. Aslan was given orders to follow Suigen, and he gave Suigen a key that would activate in his blood. It was only given to the Chosen One to enter Stage 0. All memories of Stage 0 would awaken, but he had to pass a final stage for that. Azal converted to his ultimate form, Bloody Buddha, and if he would be able to destroy the core in his stomach, he would be able to defeat Aslan. Aslan also claimed that Riku Yuki's ordered part of Riku Suigen's memories were sealed there. Suigen activated the red scarf, and 7 different gems with 7 different abilities would appear from the tomb item. As different color abilities appeared, he chose the red one. Nishikaze and Farin moved from there, and Farin wondered whether he was okay, but it all depended on his fate. Aslan attacked Suigen, but he protected him using armed skill, Raven Blade. The sword increased his speed and didn't even give time to the opponent to take a break. Aslan was very strong and didn't get affected by his stroke of the sword. Suigen understood that not only did he regenerate from others' blood, but he could also get bigger. Not only did Aslan get bigger, but his power got multiplied as he attacked plasma on him. As Suigen doubted himself and attacked Aslan, his sword broke. Suddenly, Suigen noticed a reflection of a symbol inside the blood which appeared in the sky, and as described by Aslan, it was Snow Lotus, which was given by him to those who were chosen by him, and the flower would gradually wilt for 80 seconds, after which he would automatically get hold of his blood. Once the Snow Lotus finished wilting, all the blood would burst from his body, and he would die. And if he would win, then he would be okay, otherwise he would shatter like his sword. As the sword broke, it released smoke all over the area. Aslan released his ultimate weapon, the bloody Hell Crimson Dragon, that would rise to the heavens and bring storm. Suigen figured out the trick to defeat Aslan, the monster, and he went closer to the center as the storm would be calmer there. Finally, he attacked the monster, but it again regenerated itself and hit all the players around, and he launched his final attack, Crimson Dragon Blast. Everything was destroyed, and Aslan said that he was disappointed with Riku Suigen, and he could not become the Tomb Guardian at any rate. Riku Suigen then launched the final move that froze the monster and defeated him finally. Suigen then explained that after his sword broke, he thought he wouldn't be able to win, but as it increased the smoke, it increased Suigen's powers as well as others by increasing of concentrated oxygen area. Aslan's body was full of blood, which meant that if his body was pumped full of oxygen, his powers would briefly increase, but it would also react with the iron and make his body rust. It was the power of his Gramps' divine tomb weapon, the Raven Blade. Through his sword attacks, his blood splattered and started to rust, and he created an oxygen smoke that also had a lot of oxygen in it, so the more he regenerated himself, the weaker he became. As he attacked plasma on him, Suigen understood that the electromagnetic field would create an ozone layer, the blood would get more affected, and his body would not be able to handle itself. He used the trick of oxygen poisoning, and asked Aslan how to use it to regenerate his memories, to which he replied he should take it to Stage 0, and he would get to know. The curtain falls as the silverback arrives. Everyone around praised Suigen as he defeated Aslan, the boss of Stage 18. Farin said to him that everyone was talking about him while Nishikaze was disgusted by the other players. The only thing Suigen cared about was restoring his sealed memories. As Aslan was defeated, his job as a guardian had come to an end. As for his core, if he go with Aslan to the entrance of Stage 0, then he would find out himself. He asked Aslan why didn't any high-class player arrive before other than Dark Tiger. Aslan said that if he wouldn't have defeated him quickly, he would have been lying here. Suigen understood that a super powerful player was hiding somewhere and was killing people, so 10 million class people were logging off. Between their conversations, some players with white masks appeared, and the high-class players hated Suigen as he killed Aslan. Aslan suggested he go to Stage 0, as that was his final mission. Aslan's face was stabbed by the elder baboon of Inbei, who ordered Suigen to hand over Aslan's core to them. He wanted to stay alive. Suigen mocked him, saying Inwei was a dirty name. As all the players supported Suigen, someone whispered that they were famous thugs, the Silverbacks. Inwei ordered his team members to show them their teamwork, strength, and effectiveness. Suigen ordered to move Inwei his foot, as Aslan was not able to breathe, and in anger, he threw his mask of Aslan to Suigen. Inwei told Suigen that he wouldn't be even able to stand if he found out who he was. Inwei ordered his teammates to tell them their rules. The teammates shouted that they were Silverbacks, and if they couldn't beat them, then they should log out, and they retaliate against society. Inwei again asked for the core from Suigen, however Suigen mocked them that he wasn't terrified of trash. Suigen handed over Aslan to Farron, and took his sword to fight against them. Suddenly he was attacked by a flash of light which was missed just from behind his ears. All the players glimpsed at the coin Inwei had. It was 1 million Shinryu coins. He was going to strengthen his item with all of his money. Inwei thought that Suigen was very poor and was only able to defeat Aslan because of luck. Inwei displayed the pillar of assets that only players 1 million or more can use, which was the asset graph. As Suigen mocked him, all the members of Silverbacks cheered that if they couldn't beat them, then to log out. The Silverbacks showed their asset graph, which amazed everyone. However, when Suigen charged his asset graph, everyone was taken aback, as it was over 1 billion assets. Nishikaze used her evil mirror to take Suigen, Farin, and herself to the entrance of Stage 0. Suigen learned that he could only enter Stage 0 as they wouldn't be allowed. Aslan followed him to the entrance of Stage 0. Entering the tunnel, everything was quiet and white. A tree with a large hole in the middle appeared before Aslan and Suigen. As red leaves fell from the tree, he felt nostalgic, and Aslan suggested he consume his core so he would remember everything that happened there. Suigen got a flashback of the time with his gramp Riku Yuki, when he came holding his hands and red leaves fell from the tree, and his grandfather told him that the festival was over. On the battlefield, Inwei's mask broke, and he got a call from his boss. It seemed that someone else defeated the Guardian boss. Suigen found out in his memories that his gramps and young him under a tree, and he showed a girl who was inside the hole of the tree. His grandfather told him that she also possessed the same kind of power as they had, but her parents were killed by him. But that couldn't stop the ceremony from offering her powers to that tomb. The tomb tree completely absorbed her powers, and that power would become part of the power to protect that tomb, and she would forget about her past. She would become a normal girl and be freed from her former chaotic fate. As she fell, Suigen went to her and introduced himself as Riku Suigen. As he asked her name, she fell asleep again, and young Suigen asked his grandfather why did she fell asleep again, to which his grandfather replied that she lost all her strength from the ceremony. Suigen's grandfather took out the red pear and said that it was his turn to lose his memories, as he had to take all necessary measures to protect him from the enemy. And from that time, he was no longer Riku Yuki's grandson. Suigen came back from his sealed memories, and Aslan told him that he wanted to protect him. He used the powers within his ancient blood to seal Suigen's memories hidden by binding, and used that fruit to protect the tomb and be born from a sea of blood on behalf of the 157th Grave Guardian leader, Riku Yuki. As Aslan's mission was over, he bestowed all his power within Riku Suigen. All the players who survived the battle received the prize money, and at the entrance of Stage 0, Farron and Nishikaze were standing, while Farron received a piece of information on her seabay that Aslan was defeated. Nishikaze said that beating the boss first on the battlefield may sometimes backfire too. Inwei delivered a message to his boss that Suigen was one of 1 billion players and was currently at the transfer entrance for Stage 0. Inwei's boss lamented that even if he was 1 billion player, he would end him with his Artemis snipe. Nishikaze explained to Farron that some players did not like other players beating the boss before them. The snipper shot arrived towards the entrance of Stage 0. Everyone in Silver Black rejoiced as their boss was using his god-killing shot. Suigen suddenly came out of Stage 0 and went on a massive battle with him. He was able to fight him because of the bloody armor given by Aslan, and he claimed that it raised his HP. His HP would become the same as every other player on that level combined. The boss was informed that his god-level killing shot didn't affect Suigen, and then advised the murder spree to begin, while Nishikaze suggested to meet his boss as she delivered what she had to do. Suigen ordered Nishikaze that he wanted to talk to Riku-Rei first. Nishikaze opened her evil mirror and told him that Riku-Rei didn't know about all these battles and also Stage 0. So, keeping it a secret would be better than keeping her safe. Riku-Rei appeared in the mirror and told her that the situation was complicated and he couldn't explain that to her, and promised her that everything would be normal in some days. Riku-Rei said that she believed in her and would wait for him as she waited on the last day of the dungeon century. Suigen promised her that he would find out who killed her parents. The man inside Riku-Rei's room told her that Stage 0 would officially open in 5 days, and if that went well, he would hand her over to Suigen, but till then he had to survive. Nishikaze asked Suigen whether he knew what he had to do for the next 5 days till Stage 0 opened. Suigen said he knew that he had to defeat everyone who would try to conquer Stage 0. Suigen promised that he would protect Stage 0 as well as Riku-Rei. Dark Tiger was found along with the members of the Precious, who were conversing that preparations to conquer Stage 0 were completed, and now they should proceed with the plan. One of the members of Precious was concerned that the player who defeated Aslan would be more powerful than they would have anticipated. One of the members said that he was planning to ignore their guild's rules, and the other got infuriated when Dark Tiger stopped him and told him that Randengyoku had been wanting to be a lone star title and Dark Tiger wouldn't stop him. Above the entrance of Stage 0, Nishikaze told Suigen that she would take her to her boss. Suddenly an explosion happened and everyone lamented what happened. The boss of the Silver Black appeared out of the smoke and started killing the players one by one. He was in the upper echelon of Precious Sea. As Nishikaze advised Suigen to come with her, he couldn't leave the place and Randengyoku used all his powers to kill every player present there. Nishikaze opened the portal to head towards the fortress, and Farron shouted at him to come fast to save Riku-Rei. As Suigen turned to go to the fortress with Nishikaze and Farron, suddenly he had a flashback of Riku-Rei closing his eyes and turning around to fight with Randengyoku while telling them that Riku-Rei should wait for some more time. Randengyoku laughed and said that he was like a moth to a flame. One of the totems saved Suigen from Randengyoku's attack. Nishikaze appeared from the top and introduced the member of Totem as Purple and codename Kitakaze. He was one of Totem's 8 Imperial Guards. He healed Suigen from the 2 attacks he faced, and Nishikaze said that there weren't many ways to heal in the game, but healing herbs or grave beasts with healing skills could do it. Purple was one of the few players who had the title of Doctor. Suigen remembered that there were even less than 100 players who had titles assigned. Randengyoku laughed and said he only came to defeat the boss of the tomb, but also found a doctor. As Purple and Randengyoku went into a battle, Randengyoku was able to match Purple's speed and sword, and his dexterity and strength were 0 according to Randengyoku. Purple's strokes made his number go forward by 22, and Randengyoku used his armed move, Tempest Punisher, which blew off the area with an explosion. He then used his armed move Tempest Arrow towards Purple. Randengyoku's number didn't go up, and whenever Purple touched something dealing with him, his number went up. An ice-like hard rock structure appeared before Randengyoku, and behind it was Beck, one of the member of Totems. Randengyoku called out for Shukei to break that ice wall, who was captured by some other member of Totems. Randengyoku claimed that even with Precious VIP members, his skills were vastly superior, and his assets were a total of 999,999,999. One of the members of Precious asked Dark Tiger whether he was sure, as Randengyoku once tried to steal Dark Tiger's status. While on the battlefield, Randen Yoku used his strengthening move Satan against Suigen, Farin, and the members of totems, which changed him into a large monster. Randen Yoku grew larger, and the staves on his back were changing. He changed those staves into an armed forced gun, which could shoot 666 shots in 1 minute. Beck charged the ice to cover all of them, but Randen Gyoku's shots were so fast that the ice shield couldn't hold them for a long time. Purple used his halo skill, which activated large branches of trees, which would be able to hold the shots only for a certain time and buy them time to execute certain plans. Suigen asked them a question, in his case. Wouldn't he become a billion player if he defeated another grave beast? To which Beck replied, once a player's assets neared 1 billion, they reached a limit, and no matter how much they strengthened their buster items or defeated monsters, they wouldn't be able to receive any more assets, and 10 players were nearing that critical point. They were all players that had the potential to become billion players anytime, and Randen Gyoku, who was one of the VIP members of Precious, were one of them. To get past that critical point, he had to be a Lone Star grade title, and meanwhile, Suigen remembered that he had received that Lone Star Guardian title when he got his Seabay from his grandfather. The Lone Star title was full of mysteries, and players gained their titles with their experience and performance. The title comprised of warrior, priest, archer, knight, monk, and samurai. The players could get rare titles by completing difficult quests, and Purple said that after making over 10,000 healing potions, he earned the title of Doctor. While Non-Dead's Little Element Master was one of the 10 legendary levels he had to master metal, wood, water, fire, and earth magics to earn the title. The scene shifted to the headquarters of Precious, where Randen Gyoku asked the Dark Tiger how to get a Lone Star title, and told him that he had killed over 100 high-level players, but that didn't work. Lone Star titles were unique, and there was only one of each, which had a tremendous corresponding power and the powers that made it possible to break the game's rules. As the enemy's blasts stopped, Nishikaze went outside to check on Randen Gyoku, and she found one of the members of Silver Black saying that his boss Rikudu Rinne Cannon needed time to charge, and in 3 minutes it would be able to shoot 6 times stronger. Suigen, on the other hand, activated his Raven Scarf to fight with the enemy. Riku Rei was thinking about Suigen and wondered if he was fighting to rescue her. After 3 minutes were completed, Randen Gyoku charged his fire and crumbed the wall that was protecting them. Randen Gyoku thought that he killed the billionaire and would get the Lone Wolf title. Suigen came out and explained to them that the Raven Scarf had different jewels, and only one jewel could be activated at a time. Suigen chose the purple jewel, which allowed him to strengthen one part of his body, that was Saturn, which enabled him to find the statuses of everyone. Beck replied that Saturn must have strengthened some other part of his body that had to do with the movement. Saturn had enabled the shadow, which used the light reflected into his eyes to gain information he wanted, and his shadow had the power to explode, which enabled him, and gave him the ability to go in various directions at once. Randen Gyoku laughed and said that the bullets spread across the ground were bombs which would explode and they would die. Nishikaze suggested Randen Gyoku to have a battle with Temujin, who was the boss of totems. Randen Gyoku readily agreed to defeat Temujin, as defeating him would not only make him one of the billion players, but also the boss of totems. The curtain falls outside the headquarters of totems where Temujin lived.